Hi, everybody. My name is Robyn Walsh. I'm with the Bart Ehrman team. I'm a scholar of New Testament and early Christianity, and every week I'm going to bring you a few videos where I answer your questions about the history, people, places, texts around that particular religious system. So today, the question I'm going to answer is, did Jesus really exist? What do scholars say about it? What evidence do we have? So let me start with the scholars. I think the vast majority of scholars, in my experience and from what I've read, attending conferences, being in the field for a number of years, the vast majority believe Jesus was a historical person. There are even some, you may have heard of the quest for the historical Jesus, who think that we can get down to even the things that he literally said. There are more scholars, I think, that are skeptical about that kind of project today. But I don't think there are many scholars who think that we can't retrieve something, or at the very least, that he was a person and not just completely made up. And why is that? Well, we have better evidence for him existing than we do for, frankly, a lot of people in history. The vast majority of people, historically, we have no idea that they ever existed. Just over thousands and thousands of years, right? Even unless you have something like an epitaph, you just don't know. And even for some really famous historical figures, unless we had something like the kinds of texts we have with the Gospels, both the canonical, non-canonical, something like the letters of Paul, if you didn't have that, you wouldn't know about certain historical figures anyway. So I think that we have more evidence than not that he was a person. Now, whether or not that evidence actually amounts to us being able to say something reliably about who Jesus was, or reliably about the historical circumstances of what he actually said and did, that's a different question. And that's something maybe I'll bring up in a different video about the historical Jesus period and how we retrieve that, and is it possible. But what kind of evidence do we have? Well, of course, you have what's in the New Testament itself. You have the letters of Paul, you have the Gospels. If you didn't know, there are also hundreds of non-canonical gospels. Sometimes we use other terms for them. Sometimes you'll hear something like Gnostic gospel, but there are problems with that. I'll probably talk about again in another video as well. But there are other materials out there that talk about Jesus, both the adult Jesus, Jesus as a child, something like the infancy gospel of Thomas, for example, which we date to the 2nd century. There's a lot of stuff out there. So, okay, that's number one, but let's go outside of the canon for a minute.